This is the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla in the Narrowgate Security Agency studios.
And being a pro-life politician is more than just a convenient title come election time. It means making tough decisions, even if that means bucking your party once in a while on these issues of life.
Sarah Palin is a champion for life, and so is today's guest. Janne Myrdal is stepping up in her state and looking to make a difference. Myrdal is running for state senate in North Dakota. While we are, with good reason, focusing on the presidential race, there are some very important other decisions to be made nationally and on state and community levels. Today, we'll have a conversation with North Dakota 10th District Senate candidate and longtime Palin supporter, Janne Myrdal. Sarah Palin wishes Rush Limbaugh a special happy birthday. The governor blasts Obama and his staff on Iran. A huge honor for Bristol Palin. A brand new installment of Liberty and Legacy with Tamara Colbert is on the way from Texas. And just ahead, our latest edition of Steel Resolve with Sarah Steelman in Missouri. Welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. The Palin Update is sponsored by Narrowgate Security Agency. Learn more at narrowgate.com. Today, we welcome in a really fascinating Mama Grizzly running for state senate in North Dakota. Janne Myrdal is from Norway, but now she calls the Peace Garden State home. She's a fighter for life, and she's looking to make a difference in Bismarck and in the country. Janne Myrdal, welcome to the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. How are you?
I'm great. Staying warm in the frigid, North Dakota here with 30 below wind chill tonight, but we're excited to be on with you. Thank you so much.
Time of year, I guess, in North Dakota, no doubt. But we are very happy to have you here. And it's funny, everyone obviously with very good reason talking about the 2016 presidential election, also talking about all of the seats that are up in Congress and the Senate. But people have to remember there are also very important races across this country on many, many levels. And as you know, Governor Palin has told us many times before, you don't even need a title to make a difference. And even those who do have a title, they're in these lower offices, so to speak. A lot of times they're even more important than some of the higher offices. So let's tell everybody about your run for Senate in North Dakota's 10th District. And why did you get into this?
You know, Kevin, first of all, let me say I totally agree with Governor Palin on that. I think from school board and up, I wish I would see more and more conservatives across our nation, certainly in our state, run, because local control has kind of been a passion for me. So I've been in activism since I arrived here about 22 years ago, pro-life, pro-family, national security, all kinds of stuff. And this Senate seat opened up. A friend of mine who had this seat that we supported decided to retire. So it was one of those things, I don't really need a title. I kept telling my husband and my family I don't need a title, and yet it seemed to be the obvious thing to do, and with a concern certainly for the economy, for our energy development in North Dakota, and the sort of the downtrend in ag commodities and stuff, and then a passion for education. Honestly, I've been on the school board here 2 terms, and I keep telling people, why on earth isn't, number one, North Dakota leading the nation in education, and why isn't America higher level education on all levels? So there's public school, private, or homeschooling. So, kind of have a passion for a lot of things, and grew up in a family that was quite involved. So here we are. We're running for the Senate seat.
Well, you are the former state director of Concerned Women for America, and as you mentioned, a second term on your local school board, so certainly a strong resume from a decision-making standpoint. But, you caught our eye on a national level because of your great support for Governor Palin, and not only for Governor Palin, but also for one of the top issues of why I admire Governor Palin so much, and that is her being a champion for life. And you are the same, and you also, your great state has done so much for the unborn. So let's talk about that and talk about pro-life issues. And, what I love about Governor Palin and about yourself is that, you're out there and talking about these things and making them a top priority, not something that I'll answer if the press asks me kind of deal.
Oh, absolutely. I think our founding fathers had it right. I mean, they mentioned life first, and no kidding, Governor Palin has just been so outspoken and so true to this issue, and we're so grateful. And not only has she spoken about it, she lives it, right, with her family completely. So, Kevin, it's one of those things I tell people I'm unapologetically pro-life. We've had some losses there in North Dakota. We've had some great wins. Actually, this coming Friday, the Supreme Court is in conference considering a bill that we helped push through, which is called a heartbeat bill, which would ban abortion if there's a detectable heartbeat, which is, in today's age, come on, people, if a heart stops, we tell people the person is dead. Why aren't we going to the other spectrum and saying, if there's a beating heart, why don't we protect it? And I think that's a fundamental issue for our nation, actually around the world, because if you don't have life, you can't have happiness, pursuit of happiness or liberty, right? So it has been something that I've spent 25 years doing, and I won't quit. Having said that, there's not much left in North Dakota legislatively to do on that issue, but we need to make abortion unthinkable and offer support for alternatives across our state. And like you said, we are a leader on that issue, and I'll die on that mountain if I need to. I'll never, ever compromise on standing for the unborn and the mothers that go through this trauma. So.
Well, you said that your state has had some wins and losses on the issue, but I think it's been a victory all around because at least even in the losses, you got the message out there and you've probably saved many lives along the way, really across the country. Maybe, people reading about what was happening in your state, changing their mind, someone perhaps thinking about an abortion. We had one of your state lawmakers, Dan Ruby, on the program a while back discussing some of the personhood legislation that was going through at the time. What is it about your state? I mean, we heard Donald Trump and Ted Cruz this past week talking about quote-unquote New York values. What is it about North Dakota values? Because, we hear about Sarah Palin a lot of times. Kurt Schilling was on here a couple of weeks ago, and he, just talked about how Alaskans are. And, it's obviously it's not everyone, but you can, see some similarities in some from certain areas. What is it about North Dakota that it's a place that stands up for life?
Well, I think, I'm an import into North Dakota. I grew up in Norway. I'm a U.S. citizen now, lived here for 22 years. But I think there's something about when you farm and you're sort of connected to the land, you're connected to the, just the hardship and the independence it takes and self-reliance it takes to live here. And I think there's a value that's just literally rooted, no pun intended, but rooted in the land here. People are common sense. They're very community-oriented. And we're not afraid of looking truth in the eye, right? So actually one of my opponents, so-called Republican opponents in the early stages here, is kind of going after me for being pro-life, saying, so am I, but not the way you are. I know how to do it better because our human life amendment lost here about a year and a half ago that I chaired. But like you said, Kevin, I really appreciate that. The more we talk about it, the more we push it, the better it is. I think you're never ever going to get a goal unless you shoot, right? So whether it's hockey or you're never going to hit a basket, you and I were talking about basketball off air here, you're never going to get a basket unless you shoot. So we're going to keep pounding at Roe versus Wade. We're going to keep fighting for every child, every mom, as much as we can. And again, just incredibly thankful for Palin taking national leadership on that with her family. It's been just absolutely fun to watch that. And I think the tide is turning. It's turning. So not just in North Dakota, but in the nation, I think it's turning.
I do too. I hope so. And voices like yours are a big reason why. And, you have so many who believe the same way you or I believe, but, don't have a microphone or really just don't want to speak out. And then you have others who are on television and radio all the time, who are making people think that is not the way to think and, selling this falsehoods and propaganda at them. So it is refreshing. I know there's many other issues and you have a lot of opponents that you're going to have to get through to capture this District 10 Senate seat in your state. What about just government as a whole, the size of government? I know you've talked about that. We've just seen year after year, whether it be in Washington or in everyone's state capital, it just seems like government's getting bigger and bigger, and people are letting it happen right under their nose. What about if you're elected to the state Senate? What will you do as far as the size of government?
Well, one of the things that North Dakota is known for in the last several years is we're a very prosperous state, right? We're fracking oil out west. Agriculture, I live on a farm here. I'm a farmer's wife. Is still our greatest industry, which is, by the way, agriculture is a national security issue as well, because it's probably the greatest energy issue there is in America is agriculture. And we have an enormous surplus, and we are not in debt. We have a balanced budget, and we have almost zero unemployment. However, with ag commodities trending down for the next 3 to 7 years, and as we know today, the barrel of oil is under $30, we need to tighten our belts, right? So I hope to go to Bismarck our capital, and say, listen, in prosperity we grew the government. It's just a natural human thing to do. Even Republicans here have sort of kind of snuck up onto the center, right? Not just on social issues, but fiscal issues as well. And I think we need a conservative sort of correction. So we need leadership in our state that's willing to say no. No, we got to hold on to this. We need to save some money. We need to stop spending so much extra. We need to look out for our kids and our grandkids. You know, Kevin, I had a local banker here the other day look at me, and very wealthy man in our district, and he said, you know, Janne, he goes, money comes and goes, but our kids and our grandkids is where we need to invest our policies and our money. And I couldn't agree more. So that's my heart, is to go down there and be willing to be the one that people yell at, right? That says, no, you can't have all you can do. We got to cut government back. And adding to that, I'm a pretty strong 10th Amendment believer, and there's no states that ever even use the 10th Amendment rights anymore. And I think we need to, especially with the current administration, with Obama, and God help us, I hope we don't get Hillary, but even some on the Republican side I'm not so thrilled about, that they're truly that conservative. So we need to be able to stand for states' rights and protect ourselves. So that's sort of my goal.
You know, I'd love to get your take on the whole immigration flap that we've heard lately on a national level and from a presidential level, because here you are, someone from another country. You're here. You love this land so much, and you talk about it with so much intelligence and so much passion. Here you are running to be a public servant. You can tell your heart and your mind's in the right place. And meantime, we have people, you know, who just some of the things we've been hearing and going through, you know, when you hear the voices of reason that are actually running on the Republican side, you'd say, okay, but, you know, you take a look at the media, you take a look at the left, you take a look at a lot of the Republicans. It's just amazing. We've had so many people here from other countries who now, came here the right way, and, you know, it burns them up more than anyone when you talk about illegal immigration. What has that meant to you? I mean, you know, a lot of people think about, obviously, Hispanic countries when they hear about immigration, but that's not the case always.
Well, no, it isn't. And you know what? I stood many years ago and lifted my hand and made an oath to become a U.S. citizen. And that's not an easy thing, Kevin. I mean, I grew up in a great country. Norway is a beautiful, wonderful, free country. So it wasn't like I was a refugee like some of these people are, or suffering. But there's a deep soul searching before you do that, right? It's a serious, serious deal to stand and make an oath. I mean, most of the listeners to this program today never have raised their hand and made an oath, unless it's marriage or to the service in the military. So it's a serious thing. So it's some of these policies we have now, or lack of policies, or lack of enforcement. It's almost like spitting in the faces of those of us who did it legally. You know, when I first came, I was on a green card back then, and in and out of the country. I was doing missions and relief work in our inner cities in the U.S. And then when I did become a citizen, I look at it and I think I had to go all the way back to Norway. I had to stay there for 3 months. I had to be tested for every disease and every communism, you know, whatever, until they proved, and then come back in legally. So we have to secure the border. We have to enforce the law. But somewhere in the discussion,